right, folks, here we are again at Pray Vote Stand 2025, Family Research Council's annual conference. This year we're in Chino Hills, California, and it's just an honor and a privilege for Truth and Liberty to be a part of it. We're an exhibitor here, but also to be able to sit down here with Tim Throckmorton, who's with Family Research Council, and he serves with the organization in a really vital role. Tim, tell us what your job is here at FRC.
I have the greatest job in the world. I get to work with pastors around the country and denominational leaders. I serve as the National Director of Church Engagement. So I get to take the resources and the research and the real-time biblical worldview perspective and share it with leaders and resource them and add value to their ministry and help them see where they can tap into the deep well of information we have.
Oh, that's great. Now, Family Research Council, for people who may not know, tell us about what the organization is.
Well, we're a policy organization and a think tank and a ministry organization. We were founded in 1983 by Dr. James Dobson. Yes, God bless, and his impact,
rest in peace.
His impact on culture history is going to tell the story, but it is so far reaching. We were born of a prayer meeting. Dr. Dobson was at a family gathering or a family conference at the White House during the Carter administration. And saw the need for a biblical perspective inserted of course, in culture and especially in Washington, D.C. So they prayed and God birthed the idea, and we weren't officially connected to Focus, but we became an entity of our own. But it began in Dr. Dobson's heart and his leadership, and he was influential throughout his life at FRC.
I tell you what, a hero of the faith Dr. James Dobson was. He just recently passed, and where would we be today in America if it hadn't been for him? His sacrifice, his hard work, his leadership and vision. But FRC is still going strong all these many years later, and you are the director of faith engagement,
church engagement,
reaching out to pastors and getting pastors equipped and supporting them and helping them to stand for truth in our culture. What kind of things do you do for pastors and for the church?
I was a pastor for 22 years, and so as a pastor with FRC, I would use the information. You used to send us stuff in the mail, and you'd open the mail and you'd have the flyer or the little booklet, and I would glean from those. Well, now everything's online and in real time. And so we are, first and foremost, we provide a real-time biblical worldview perspective on what's happening through our daily newspaper, the Washington Stand, and Tony's daily show, Washington Watch. And all that's archived. Folks can go back and draw from it. So for a pastor who's going to speak to an issue, whether it be in a sermon or a teaching, we're a well of resource they can draw from and search, and in real time they'll get the latest information through all of that. It's all on our app, the Stand Firm app, and so again, that's coming at them. They can share with their people. So here's a resource. Where do you get your news? I get asked that question all the time. Where do you get your information? Well, Truth and Liberty, the Stand Firm app, Washington Watch, the Washington Stand. And so these resources that are available to pastors are invaluable, along with the research. So the Center for Biblical Worldview is perhaps the most used resource overall of all that we provide. We have a wonderful well of videos and booklets and research papers and white papers, all speaking to what pastors are dealing with their congregations. So our Center for Biblical Worldview has produced a series, Biblical Principles for religious engagement, political engagement, pro-life engagement, and the most sought after one, human sexuality. Because pastors are folks in every church are dealing with issues of human sexuality, and whether it's the transgender ideology, whether it is a pro-life or a pro-choice issue, folks are dealing with that within their families. So how does a pastor speak biblically to that? And deeper, how do they speak biblically to political engagement? How do we engage the culture civically? Should we? If so, how do we? It's one thing to know that we should, but it's another thing to know what to do. And by the way, that's the number one question I've been asked. In 8 years of working with the Family Research Council, the number one question folks ask is, what can I do? And I'm talking about the laity and in the churches I've spoken in. What can I do? And so we have something to point folks to.
Well, let me just make sure everybody understands this. If you're a pastor out there, or even if you're not, but you want your pastor to be aware, this is important that you hear this. You can go to Family Research Council and find information that will help you prepare a sermon on human sexuality, or on maybe socialism, or any of the issues of our day. So if people want to find that, where is it, Tim?
The best way, if you download the Stand Firm app, that's probably the best.
Stand Firm, okay.
Stand Firm, that app, that's our latest everything media,
Okay.
It's our latest Washington Watch, latest articles on the Washington Stand, latest work from the Center for Biblical Worldview. But if you go to the site, and for many pastors, as I'm sitting and talking to them, saying, if I was doing research, go to frc.org, click on the issues button, it drops down, and topically you can search the lanes that we run in: life, family, and religious freedom. And if you dial in on those, it'll give you a deep well of resources. I know I've said that 2 or 3 times, but it's there.
Yeah.
And for pastors, the books you go to most, or the sites you go to most. If you're going to speak biblically to cultural issues, FRC has a very easily accessible resource database for you.
Okay, and so you were about to tell us, I think, about if you're not a pastor, but you're in church and you're saying, what can I do? How do you answer that question to the average layperson out there?
Well, we are forming what we're calling Pray, Vote, Stand chapters around the country, and so those chapters begin with prayer. They focus on engaging culture, and we have this structured approach to how you begin to do that. You begin bathing your community and your leaders in prayer, and building relationships with them, and then providing the resources for folks to, whether it's a voter registration drive, teaching a God and government class, hosting a candidate forum, hosting a prayer breakfast, those things that build, we were talking about this earlier, building relationships with those involved civically, and bringing the church into that realm via that personal touch, that personal commitment to, hey, we're praying for you. And through that, we found that a lot of folks who are getting involved in, whether it's a community impact team or a Pray, Vote, Stand chapters is what we're launching. As they get involved, they begin to run for office. They begin to sense God's voice speaking to them. Hey, I can do this. Now I understand what needs to be done. Because I think we're in a moment where there are 3 great illiteracies. There's biblical illiteracy, and our research and others point to that very thing. Only 6% of Americans over the age of 18 have a biblical worldview. The number of people who are registered to vote, as opposed to the number of people who do vote, who call themselves Christians, there's a lot of stats out there. So there's biblical illiteracy. There's also historical illiteracy. Less people understand our godly heritage than ever before.
That's true.
And less people understand how government works than ever before. So you have biblical, historical, and civic illiteracy.
Sounds like conditions ripe for Marxism.
Exactly. That's the point.
Yeah.
Anybody can say anything, and just about everybody believes it.
Yeah, right.
And it's volatile. So bringing a biblical worldview perspective into those realms and teaching, our God and Government course that Tony put together a year or 2 ago. That's a 13-week course that folks can go through and learn how the Bible and government and civic involvement all comes together. Because we live in America. We're not in another place on earth that's like us.
Yeah.
It's a unique place. God's entrusted to us the stewardship of this moment. And one of my mentors used to say it this way: the world at its worst needs the church at its best. And so that's what we need right now.
Well, amen. One of my favorite programs that FRC has had over the years are the community impact teams. They used to be called culture impact teams. And I tell people about that all the time when people are asking me, what can I do to get involved? Is that still an active program, and how can people learn about that?
We've got a lot of those teams around the country right now, and they're active, and they're They're hosting candidate forums, as I mentioned earlier. They're doing voter registration drives. They're raising the level of awareness on issues. They are creating their own voter guides in many ways, working with iVoter Guide and many other of our friends who are in the trenches out there doing that. And they're also bringing awareness. They're informing, they're equipping, they're alerting and mobilizing the church and the community. And it's pulling in people even from outside their churches often because they're teaching. They're hosting a Patriot Academy biblical citizenship class, or they're teaching God and government, or they're taking some of the courses or the booklets from the Center for Biblical Worldview and they're teaching classes. And again, that raising that level of awareness is an environment where God can work in the hearts of people and help them to say, you know, I think God might be calling me to do this.
Well, you know, Truth and Liberty is based in Colorado. We're in Woodland Park. We're just, 15 minutes from Colorado Springs. In Colorado Springs, there's a church. It's led by Pastor Mark Cowart. And you probably know Mark.
I know Mark.
And one of the graduates of a government school that we started at Charis Bible College, actually a husband and wife, they started a culture impact team there at Pastor Mark's church. Mark was the director of the government school while I was the coordinator. But this CIT there at Church for All Nations has become a real hub for conservative Christians to get involved, to get educated, informed, and has become just a transformative powerhouse in the local community. And that's why I'm such a believer in it. And so I encourage everybody, if you're asking that question, what can I do to get involved, or how can I make a difference? Go to FRC's website, go to our website, but go to FRC at frc.org, right? And you can probably find all the information you want there.
Sure. And we're praying that these Pray Vote Stand chapters, which our goal is to have one in every county in America.
Oh, wow.
And by beginning with prayer, praying and asking God, what do you want? Because everywhere's different. And that's a unique thing. In communities in different states, you find things that are unique to that place, and God's doing something amazing there. And so praying, and then God giving the direction to engage, and then take a stand, because once you know what's true. I found this, Rick Green and I were talking about this recently. When Christians in America realize who they are, where they came from, there's something that just happens. It's like a light bulb goes off, and they say, "Oh, that's how we started. That's where we came from." It's kind of back Josiah's revival. They read the scriptures, and that's how we're to respond. That's who God is, and that's our story. And once we remember our story, and that's what's exciting about this coming year, 250 years. We've got a God story as a nation. And when we remember that, I think God's up to something big as we head into 2026.
Well, Tim, let's close this out by maybe you take a minute here and talk to pastors. Pretend I'm out there, I'm a pastor, and I'm doing my best, but this whole politics thing, I don't know about that. I'm nervous about it. I'm not an expert in it, and it doesn't feel right. I don't know what to do.
Oh, well, I would say to any pastor, first of all, I pastored and I experienced a moment where, I call it my Peter Gabriel Muhlenberg moment, where I realized that I had a call to speak biblically to cultural issues. And often I was accused of being political, but my response was quick. I am not political, I'm biblical. The Bible speaks to everything that's happening in culture. And we as pastors are placed by God in a moment where the people who we are leading, the people who we're ministering to, are dealing with so many things. And their heart is hungry for a biblical worldview perspective on what's happening. And not only that, they're bombarded with entities and influences that are trying to shape the worldview of their children and grandchildren in a way that drives them away from God. And at the Family Research Council, we want to equip you and resource you and add value to your good work by helping in any way we can your ministry to speak biblically to cultural issues through our Center for Biblical Worldview, through all of our resources. And as a pastor, when you take that stand, my experience personally in two great churches in Ohio over 22 years, the more I spoke biblically to culture, the church grew, and I was thanked more than I was opposed. in all of my ministry. So let me encourage you to take this moment, this very important moment, and allow God to use your ministry to raise the level of awareness in culture today.
Amen. Tim Throckmorton, thank you so much for joining us on Truth and Liberty today.
Oh,
it's been a pleasure, brother.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.